السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I'm Khalid Al-Amin again, and welcome to this session. In this session we are going to talk about glandular tissue or glandular epithelium. What we are doing in this session is we need to define glands. What are glands? And we need to differentiate between the big types of glands, and we also need to appreciate the classes of exocrine glands, giving examples for each class. So this is what we need to do in this session. Glandular epithelium can be defined as cell or cells or aggregation of cells whose function is secretion. Again, glands can be defined as one cell, group of cells, or groups of cells, and the key function for the gland is secretion. And as we said, glandular tissue is part of the epithelial tissue. I will show you a diagram in a minute. So if we look here, this is a gland. For example, this is a parotid gland. You can see this part in green is composed of cells, group of cells, so which secrete saliva. Saliva will go through here to reach the surface. Okay, this is a gland. Or we can see groups of cells, multiple groups here. We call these groups aggregations, and these aggregations, if they secrete, again their function is secretion. Again, these are also glands. Okay, so I think this is surface epithelium, and it was thought that these glands at one time they are part of this surface epithelium, and during the embryological development they get internalized. We know below the epithelium we have connective tissue. They get internalized to the inside within this connective tissue, and they function in secretion, and the surface epithelium continue to do its surface function. This is why we said glandular epithelium is part of the epithelium. So the epithelium can be surface for absorption, protection, barrier, secretion, or it can be a defined group of cells which has only one function, which is secretion. How we classify glands? Glands can be exocrine glands or endocrine glands. So on the base of ducts, the presence or absence of ducts, we classify glands into two broad classifications: exocrine and endocrine. Okay, we need to know the differences between exocrine and endocrine glands. Any idea? Anyone with any idea about this? Just think for seconds. Okay, so exocrine glands are glands that have ducts, and the function of these ducts will be to carry secretions to the surface, to the target, to the area of action of the secretion. Any gland with a duct, it is exocrine. The keyword here is duct. If a gland has a duct and this duct carries the secretion to a localized site, so the effect of this gland is localized also. the effect of the gland is localized, because the salivary glands will secrete saliva. It will function in the mouth and not elsewhere. The pancreas will secrete digestive enzymes which will work in the small intestine but not in the liver, not in the mouth, and so on. Examples for exocrine glands include salivary glands, sebaceous gland, and sweat glands. We mentioned the pancreas, but the pancreas is peculiar because the pancreas contains mixed glands, both exocrine and endocrine. If you look here, this is the part in green here is the glandular part, and this is the duct, and this is the surface. So this gland is exocrine gland. The same here. This is the stomach, H&E section from the stomach. You can see we have here this gland. Sorry, this is a section in the colon, and you can see here this structure here also is a gland. We'll talk about it in a minute. What about endocrine glands? Endocrine glands are ductless. The secretions reach the target through the blood. Okay, so the main difference here is these glands are ductless, they are without ducts. This raises the question about how their secretions reach the target. The secretions reach the target through the blood. So here, usually if you compare these endocrine glands with other glands, with other organs, you see that they have rich blood supply. Okay, for example, here we have the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is a small gland in the neck. If it is not enlarged, you cannot see it, but it has 4 arteries. It has 6 veins just for these small glands. Okay, so what characterizes endocrine glands is their rich blood supply because of being ductless, and this will bring us to the third characteristic, which is generalized action. Endocrine glands, they have generalized actions. Why? Because they secrete through the blood. Let us take the thyroid gland again. It secretes thyroid hormones. These thyroid hormones are needed almost by all cells in the body. So the thyroid hormones will circulate through the blood and they will reach almost all cells. If you can give us more examples, here we are talking about the thyroid, the adrenal, pituitary, the gonads, the testes, and the ovary, and other endocrine glands in the body. These are just examples of these endocrine glands. Look at this section. Glands are defined as groups of cells, aggregations of cells. You see these aggregations, but here in this thyroid gland we have these structures, capillaries. You can see the red blood cells, yeah, all over the section. They are characteristic of this section. So what characterizes the endocrine glands is their rich network of capillaries and blood vessels. So these cells here, they will secrete thyroid hormone which will go to the blood here. Okay, so now we defined glands. We classified glands into either endocrine and exocrine glands. In the next slides we will talk mainly about exocrine glands. Endocrine glands will be part of the systemic histology in the next course, and here we will just go into other classifications but for exocrine glands. We usually classify exocrine glands according to the cell number, and in this we can divide exocrine gland into unicellular or multicellular. We have seen goblet cells in the section of the colon. Goblet cells are an example of unicellular gland. All other glands in the body, they are multicellular. This is important. According to shape of what? Shape of the secretory part. So here we classify exocrine glands into acinar or tubular. The third thing is according to the branching pattern of the duct. Exocrine glands have duct, and according to this duct branching in the gland can be simple or compound or simple branched. Okay, actually we divide glands into three: simple, branched, or compound. Let us go into this. According to number, we said the glands can be unicellular or multicellular. The only example for unicellular is goblet cells. Multicellular glands, you can say all other exocrine glands. According to shape, they can be acinar or tubular. If you look here, this gland is rounded. The secretory part, just look at the secretory part, not the duct. It is rounded, so we call it acinar. Sometimes you can find it as alveolar. So we can say this is acinar or alveolar. But if you look at this and the other ones here, they are tubular. Look at this. It looks like the test tube, the one you use in the chemistry lab. This looks like a test tube, so this is tubular. This is also tubular, but it is coiled, and this is tubular. Okay, so according to shape, we can divide the glands into acinar or tubular. But look at the ducts. In all this, the duct is not so branching. Here it is simple, and the shape is tubular, so we call it simple tubular. On this side, it is simple but branching 1 to 2, maybe 3 times here. So this is not complex branching. It is not simple like this. This is simple branched, and the shape is acinar, so it is called simple branched acinar. This is also simple branched. This is simple tubular. This is simple branched tubular. This is simple coil tubular. Coil because it is long and it gets this coiling. A good example for this is sweat glands. If you look at this section again, you can see that this gland is tubular and it is not branching, so it is simple tubular gland. Okay, this is called simple tubular gland. This secretory part in green, this tube like, and this part is the duct, and the duct is simple. What about this one? This one is tubular, but look at the duct branching here. It is dividing complexly, so it is compound tubular. Look at this one. It is acinar. This is the duct. It is branching so many times, so it is compound acinar. Look at this one. It contains acini and tubules, so we call it compound tubuloacinar. Okay, so we call it compound tubuloacinar because it contains both shapes. This one contains only tubules and the duct is compound, and this one is acinar and the duct is compound, so we call it compound tubuloacinar. What about this one? What type of gland is this? Yes, you are right. This is simple tubular. What is this? Think about this. Look at this and tell me what shape is this. Yes, the shape is acinar, the duct is branching complexly, so it is compound acinar. This one, complex duct branching, acini tubules, so this is compound tubule acinar gland. So according to the branching of the duct, we divided exocrine glands into simple branched and compound, and we need to mix this branching with the other classification of the shape, either acinar or tubular, to get the full name of the duct. So like the surface epithelium, we have to base the classification of the glands onto shape and duct branching. Again, another classification considers the way the secretion leave the gland. Okay, you know, exocytosis, pinocytosis. If the gland excretes only the secretion without losing a big part of the gland, this type of secretion is called merocrine. Mero means little. Whenever you see this mero, this means little. Crine is a gland. Good example for this is pancreas. Here the secretion will leave by exocytosis. The enzymes will leave the cell without taking part of the membrane of the gland, but in other glands called apocrine, apo from the word apical, so here we will lose the apical part of the cell with the secretion. So a bigger part of the cell will leave the cell, and this part is the apical part of the cell. The third type is holocrine, holo from the word whole. Here the whole cell will be secreted with the secretion, example the sebaceous gland. Okay, so we are moving from little apical part, the whole cell. And here, as we said, we have the sebaceous gland, and this type of secretion, holocrine secretion, is sometimes associated with blockage of the duct. Does it make sense? This gland blocks the duct more than the apocrine and the merocrine. Why? Because when this gland is activated, it secretes a lot of secretions. Example, in puberty, at the time of puberty, usually this active secretion will be associated with blockage of the duct, and the secretion will jam inside the gland, and this will lead to acne. Acne. You see that more in the face, a lot of small cysts. These cysts are just glands with blocked duct, because the type of secretion in this gland is holocrine gland. If you look at this is a gland, but if you look at this, the apical part of the cell here is lost with the secretion. Whenever it secretes, you can see this is pinched out, this is secreted, so we can say this type of gland is apocrine. Gland. Okay, to understand this more, look at this video from YouTube. You can see here, this is the cell, this is the nucleus, this is the secretion. The secretion is packed by Golgi apparatus here, and it goes to the apical part, and it secretes by exocytosis without losing a bigger part of the membrane. Here a small part of the membrane will be lost with the secretion, and this type of secretion is called merocrine. Okay, If the secretion is packed, and when it gets here, it is lost with the apical part of the cell, which will be renewed. This type of secretion is called apocrine secretion. Okay, this is called apocrine secretion. And definitely we have an example here of the mammary gland, and the sweat glands are questionable. Are they apocrine or they are merocrine? They are still not clear. In the holocrine, the whole cell will be lost, containing the secretion, the nucleus, everything. It goes, and as we said, this sometimes, if the gland is active with a lot of cells, they can block the gland. Okay, so this is a holocrine type of secretion. Okay, so we divided exocrine glands according to number of cells, unicellular, multicellular, according to shape, acinar, tubular, according to duct branching, either simple branched or compound. And we have a classification based on the way of secretion, and here we have merocrine, apocrine, and holocrine. Okay, the last topic we will talk about is the structure of exocrine glands in general. So usually exocrine glands have similar structure, so if we know this will help us to understand the structure of all exocrine glands. All these glands are surrounded by a connective tissue capsule. These glands are divided into lobes by septa. Septum is one, septa for many, and this septa will be divided into, or these lobes will be divided into smaller lobules by smaller septa. And these glands are supplied by blood vessels, nerves. They have ducts which will leave the gland. All what we have said is here. This is the capsule from outside. If you look here, this is septum, and it divides the gland in two lobes. Look at this. This is septa. This is septa. Here we have lobe. This is another lobe. Look at this lobe. It is divided by a smaller septa into lobules. This is lobule, but all this is lobe, this is lobe, this is another lobe, and you can see inside each lobe there is smaller septa and smaller lobules. Inside the lobules we find the secretory parts, which can be acinar or tubular or tubulo-acinar, with connective tissue which will support the gland and give it its shape. Okay, so this is general structure of the gland, and as we said, within the gland we can say blood vessels and nerve. Here we are talking about exocrine glands. If we are talking about endocrine glands, we will see a lot of blood vessels because they have no ducts, but exocrine glands have ducts and they get blood supply just to supply them. Okay, so in a summary, we talked about glands. We defined what are glands, aggregation of cells. We differentiated between endocrine and exocrine glands. We divided exocrine glands on basis of many things, including the number of cells, the shape, the ducts, and lastly we talked about the structure of large exocrine glands. We talked about the capsule, the lobes, the lobules, and so on. I guess this is all about glands, and this is all about epithelium. This is all about epithelium. So we talked about epithelial tissue. We divided it into surface epithelium and glandular epithelium. This is the first tissue in general histology. Next, we will talk about connective tissue. Thank you.